Welcome to the Video Creator Show. I am, of course, Grant. Today I'm speaking with the RC Car King. His name is Mike Howl, and he has built a YouTube channel to 1.4 million subscribers and a TikTok account to just about the same. He brings out the personality of these cars, he gets really cool shots of them, and everything he does is really unique, and he's living proof that you can build an audience around whatever your niche and passion is. Mike, you were telling us your intro story before we had some technical difficulties. Let's hear that one more time, because it's pretty fascinating. It's kind of like a movie.
Yeah, sure thing, Grant. Hello, viewers. My name is Mike Howl, as introduced before. I claim to be the RC king of YouTube and TikTok. I mean, I do bestow the crown on my hat somehow. But regardless, the content that I make it's a bit interesting when you think, oh, remote control cars. Okay, he probably just drives them around. Not just that, but I also develop characters and stories with my RC cars. And the way that it came around is that back when I was starting on YouTube and TikTok, essentially, I wasn't really aiming for an audience. It was just for my own fun, me to just try out different things like how do I edit or how do I add music. It was just for my self-teaching, I guess you could say. So that way I could figure out what I'm good at. And turns out I was getting pretty good at it. So I decided, you know what, let me try to build up a platform on this. And, as usual, it started out pretty slow with it being RC content. No one's really familiar with RC cars. There's only a small margin of people in the world that are familiar with it and then pursue it as a hobby. So what I wanted to try and do is make the hobby feel inclusive, easy to get into, and ultimately just have fun with it. So when I started out on TikTok, that was my main goal, was to make the RC hobby look appealing and look just absolutely fun to get into. So posting regularly on TikTok, trying to get a couple of decent views, which a couple of videos had popped off. I wasn't really good at the hashtag things or any sort of that aspect. So this was, again, self-teaching myself into, how do I grow big on YouTube and TikTok, Instagram, any sort of social media platform I was trying to. And it was weird. I didn't exactly look it up. It was more of just trial and error, which on YouTube or on TikTok, it's about catching a wave. You can post a video and it will sit there and not gain a lot of views, but eventually it'll catch this tidal wave of trends and you're able to ride that, which happened a couple of times on TikTok. Now, that was becoming an issue for me because I wanted to be consistently having, higher viewership. But it was difficult trying to do that with the RC cars, with it just being cool cinematography and everything else. So I was trying a couple of things out day by day. But then one day I was practicing for a improv drama class and, I was just walking outside with my truck and I said, hang on a second. What if I just started talking to my RC car, treating it as if it's like a pet or a person? And that's exactly what I did. If any of you have seen my video series, What It's Like to Drive My RC Cars, you know that my character Slash sort of behaves like an 8-year-old child, or maybe even like a puppy. Something where he feels rebellious and he doesn't want to listen. So I made a video about that back in early 2021. Posted the video and then forgot about it. At that time, I think I had gained about 89,000 followers, considering it was just RC car content or regular car content, anything in that sort of aspect. Then within 24 hours, I looked at my phone and all of a sudden TikTok notifications were just going off and off. It was just absolutely insane. And within that same day, went from 89,000 followers to then 100,000 followers on TikTok. And TikTok within itself, I feel like sometimes you become a one-hit wonder. But when I was consistently posting the same type of video with different storylines, I wasn't just becoming that one-hit wonder. I had a consistent viewership that wanted to see the adventures of Mike Howl and his RC cars. So after that success on that day, made more of those What It's Like to Drive episodes, a couple of spin-offs where I would just do cinematography to show people, look, I can be this goofy, silly guy. And then I have the serious hardcore stuff that gets you pumped up. And that eventually got me to 1 million followers within 6 months of that year. And then jumping to YouTube, which personally, it's a very hard platform to get a lot of viewers on or a dedicated audience because this is YouTube. Everyone's used to longer videos, vlog style videos, whatever you're into. YouTube has a majority of a massive audience. So I knew it was going to be a tough game to try and get on there. So I just started re-uploading some of my TikToks that did decent views and then would try to replicate that same success on YouTube, which didn't exactly go too well. However, I believe it was either 2021 or 2022, YouTube had released a new platform within YouTube called YouTube Shorts. Basically like your Instagram Reels and your TikToks, a short form platform. Perfect. What they wanted was quantity of a lot of videos so that way they could get pumping out content to there. Because if they had content to pump out, they would see the success. And lo and behold, during 2022, I uploaded my most viral video from TikTok to YouTube Shorts, and it absolutely blew me out of the water with the views that I was able to achieve. So for perspective, the TikTok video that got me really viral had 16 million views. Now that's a lot. The same video that I uploaded to YouTube Shorts now has over 100 million views. So it's it's absolutely insane how that works, because like I said, YouTube Shorts was looking for more quantity of videos. So they were pushing the YouTube Shorts platform a lot more. How do you push it? You need content on there. So in the early stages, they had a lot of people posting to YouTube Shorts, and luckily I was able to catch that tidal wave in order to make my post go viral, now sitting at 1.4 million subscribers on YouTube and 1.2 million on TikTok. And that's basically somewhat long but short sweet of how I became this viral RC guy.
That is a crazy story. The fact that you actually sort of became an overnight sensation, I mean, that really is like a movie. And it speaks to the virality of short form content. I know you make long form content as well now, but it is kind of interesting how a short can get 100 million views. And I'm curious, why do you think it did so well? Like, especially this video that you repurposed from TikTok to YouTube. Like, why do you think it got 16 million views on TikTok and over 100 million on YouTube? Like, what about that video do you think appealed to people, or like, what was it?
So basically, I think it was the 6th video in my What It's Like to Drive RC video series. And I'd introduced a new character called Tiger, which is a 1/12 scale truck. So in size comparison, it's smaller than my Slash character, which is a 1/10 scale. So different sizes and proportions. What I do usually, based on the size of the truck, it's almost like an age gap thing. So if you have a tiny truck, it's maybe like, in dog years, maybe like a puppy per se. And then when you have a much bigger truck, it's like, an older dog or something like that. Within size, it's sort of like the maturity level of my characters. But what I used that in my advantage is that I told Slash, hey, we got a brand new friend in our little RC group. So he gets all excited and everything. And then I pushed the box of the new RC truck in there. It's kind of like, if anyone has ever gone to pick up a pet from an animal shelter or an adoption center, they come in these little boxes, or even like Build-A-Bear, where you take them out of the little boxes. So that's what it was sort of like. And then I would open up the box slightly, and then it would be driving both trucks at the same time, which at the time I could have asked someone for help. But again, this is sort of like my personal way of I know how to capture the vision. So let me just try to do it my way. So what I did is that Tiger would slowly inch out of the box, being very nervous and scared. And then all of a sudden, Slash would be enthusiastic, hey, what's up? Scaring Tiger back into the box. So I would reassure Tiger, no, it's okay. You can come on out. So after Tiger had become more comfortable, he then freaked out and then ran into Slash and then ultimately flipped over. Now, while I was driving these trucks, I didn't intend for that to happen, but that's when the improv came into play, and I just went off the top of my head. Okay, this situation happened. Let me just roll with it as if this was supposed to happen. Basically, it's two puppies meeting for the first time, and they're very enthusiastic, which, when I was telling you before about the relatability, was that people have seen that interaction of two dogs meeting for the first time. The tail's wagging, they're barking, they're exciting, they're playful with each other. So when you create that environment of being relatable, everybody's comfortable and like, this happened to me. So let me watch a couple more of these videos. And then you start becoming involved in the story because it's so relatable. That's what makes YouTube Shorts and TikTok with my content so relatable, is that these feelings that have happened before, or you've seen this somewhere else, and you're able to correlate and be like, yeah, I totally get this story. So that video is sort of set the mark or the benchmark in order for me to grow this series and be able to introduce new characters, new ideas, and just have fun with it. So that video in particular is just like, it's a wholesome video. If you look at the comments, there's like 50-50 of this is adorable and cute, or you're a psycho and you have no friends, which is true half the time. But that's the fun bit of it, is that it's just relatable, which has made it absolutely fun for me.
Mm-hmm. Right on. Yeah, relatability is huge, and I think giving personality to cars and things like that, there is kind of an adorableness to it. There's a cuteness to it. It's fun, and I'm sure kids enjoy it as well. It's it seems like you do get very creative with it. Now, do you feel like you've always been creative? Like, does your brain think of a million different things at once? Because this is a very unique style of content. So I'm curious, what is your brain like?
One word, chaotic. But it's essentially, if you ever meet me in real life or in person, I'm a very enthusiastic person. I try to bring joy, happiness, and just overall, just fun, because I don't want to be some boring slab on YouTube, be like, hey, what's going on, people? Welcome back to another video. Now, not regardless, people can work off that success because that's their style. My style, I want to bring that, pumped up action, so that way you feel better when you're watching the videos. Like, oh, if this guy's excited, I should be excited. So that's generally when it comes to making these videos. It's all off the top of my head, all improv, because in my little magical wonderland of RC cars, I just imagine them as characters in a story. And as I'm writing the story, I'm developing, what's going to happen at this turn. What should the truck say in this scenario? So it's all just, it's well orchestrated, I would think, from my background of how I did things. Even as a kid, I was just into creating my own stories or characters. So that's sort of the element that I've played from, was just, like I said, the improv. I love acting. It's definitely one of my passions. It's what I've poured into the RC cars, so that way it become this much bigger thing. It's combining two worlds and then making the puzzle pieces fit, and which in fact they have. It's all about perspective, right? You have to look at yourself, look at around you, and just try to adapt to that environment. Be like, judging by how this tree looks, it could be like, an old fig tree that has wisdom. Or if you have like a small bush that, I don't know, is immature. It's a weird terminology to explain, but that's just how my mind thinks, is that I can look at something and just try to think deeply on it about how I could portray it as a character. This is a lot of like my creativity as a background. That's why whenever I paint or customize my RC bodies, I usually don't like to mimic or make the exact replicas of a body, because in my head, I want to make a statement for myself or be able to make something unique and new, which then gets people thinking and be like, ooh, I've never seen this sort of style before. I like it. So that's when I introduced the Talking the RC cars. Not that I've seen on YouTube or anywhere else, but I haven't seen anyone make this type of content before. So me being the weirdo that I am, I decided to jump on the opportunity to create unique content, because people love uniqueness. They love having like different personalities, or they love not exactly copycats. Like sometimes I imagine myself, if I was to make an exact replica video of another YouTuber, people would call me out about that. I wouldn't want that for myself, because I want to be true to myself, which I feel like a lot of YouTubers out there how they achieve those goals is they create their own like character, right? And when you have different characters, you're able to either relate to them or be able to think about their perspective and see like, how cool it is they live their life rather than how you live your life.
Hey there. You probably know the Video Creator Show is brought to you by VidChops.com. What is VidChops.com? Well, it is an editing service that will take the horrible burden of editing off your back. We all know video editing. It's tedious. It takes forever. But what if you had a professional who did it for you? You go to sleep, you wake up, it's done. Wouldn't that be magical? VidChops.com. Hire a professional, save yourself time and energy, and take your YouTube channel to the next level. Yeah, and kind of speaking of how you live your life, I think one thing that can happen when you get really huge on social media, so in your case, TikTok and YouTube, like how has this affected your life? Like, have you changed your trajectory at all? Are you doing more or less the same thing, but now you're making videos? Like how has this affected your day-to-day life and even your state of mind, like how you feel on the inside?
So when it first started to grow on TikTok, this was back when I was still in high school. So I somewhat had all the time in the world, quote unquote. When I said all the time in the world, that's when summer was rolling around. So I didn't have any like school obligations. So I was able to just be able to pump out content as quickly as possible and just know what's the next video that's going to come out. But as the school semester came along for college, and most people that have gone to college, it definitely, for the first time, it changed my life in time management, priorities. So once the college train started to pull into the station, the videos and that sort of aspects started to slowly pull away because I was trying to manage so many things at once. It was very difficult. But what I was trying to say is that it all came very fast. That's what happened, is that the success, the followers, they all came roaring in. Like everything happened so fast. I felt like I was playing catch up with like constantly posting longer videos or short form videos. So it was just a lot of overwhelmingness that in 2022, I somewhat took a little bit of a break. I would try to post occasionally, but a lot of the school came into play, the show that I was performing in as well. It was definitely a lot to manage. So I sort of like took a back seat on the content wise because I wasn't used to this rise in popularity or even how to manage it because I don't have influencer friends or people that, or no connections that are into this business. I was still self-taught and on my own with this. So I really didn't have anyone to go to per se with this help. Sure, I had like my family and my friends suggesting things and being there for me, but ultimately in the influencer world or the social media world, I really didn't have like a go-to partner to be like, hey, should I do this or that, knowing their skills and knowledge about it. So it hasn't been effective personally for me. Like usually what I'll see is that a YouTuber will get like a massive following and then they'll live off of that personality that they've developed in their videos. But once the camera turns off, they go back to their usual day-to-day life or not enthusiastic attitude. Not for me. Whenever I'm on the camera, especially right now, I prefer to be myself. What I mean by that is being, passionate, excited, because once people start to rub off on that excitement, they become excited or happy. I don't want to create an environment that seems drowery, sleepy, or, just sort of that element where you don't feel, meh. I want to be able to make a comfortable environment where people are having fun, where they're able to just laugh, have a great time. That's what I sort of bring to my personality in my day-to-day life and on social media. So I would say it hasn't changed dramatically. Maybe in the aspect of trying to get priorities straight and time management better, that's probably changed. But as a personality thing, I haven't seen much change in that or let the following get to my head. Like, oh yeah, I have like 1 million followers. What do you mean? Like all that stuff. No, 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 no. Because I'm just as
Hmm.
human as you. You know, I have eyes, ears, all stuff that humans do. Just because I have a million followers doesn't mean I'm better than you. It means when I see that I have a million followers, it means that I've achieved I've achieved an environment where I can express myself in a fun, dramatic way. And I want to be able to share that with others. I don't want to hold it over their head as saying that I'm better than you. I want to use it as look what's achievable that you can do for yourself. You can make anything unique. Like everyone does RC car content, is what I found out. What makes me different? I talk to the RC cars. It comes back into okay, what do you do when you have multiple Minecraft YouTubers? What makes them different? And that's how they achieve their success because everyone is so unique and different. When you have uniqueness, everyone mushes together, or not mushes together, everybody comes together so that way you can have like different perspectives and different realities and you're able to like have a great conversation about that, just like, oh, you do stuff like this, cool, I do stuff like this, and that just generates like a better environment.
Hmm. Yeah, I love the positivity and that this hasn't really affected your overall attitude towards life or anything. I think that's really important. Um, did you ever, like, I'm sure when you tell people that you have millions of subscribers, that they get excited and it's kind of a big confidence boost. But it seems like you haven't really deviated too much. Like you weren't like, I'm gonna move to LA now. You're still going to school. You're in you said you're acting or you're in a show. Is that correct? Like you're still kind of doing these creative things that have nothing to do with YouTube or TikTok. And I think that's really healthy. I also see that you have videos where you're kind of racing RC cars in, it almost looks like a league. There's like other people around and you kind of have this community. Um, how do other people fit into your videos? Maybe not so much the videos themselves necessarily, but how have other people's influences, whether it's kind of a community of other people who are interested in RC cars or like collaborations? And yeah, I'm just curious kind of how other people have affected your content.
So the main people that I'm a part of in an RC community would be my scale drift community, or SDS we like to call it. I'm big into drifting. I love a car going sideways. It's definitely a lot of fun. But that's mainly because back in 2019, when I was getting into the RC hobby, over at my local hobby shop, we opened up this indoor drift track. And one of my buddies, Alex, aka Mr. Creative, somewhat took me under his wing as a drift mentor, sort of guiding and directing me on like, the ways of RC drifting, tuning the cars and everything like that. So he helped me out in that aspect a lot. But, once 2020 came around, COVID shut down a lot of areas. So it sort of went quiet. And that's when I started creating my content. Once 2020 rolled back in, he reached out to me saying, we're opening up SDS again. Do you want to come by and slide? I'm like, yeah, sure. So the RC drift community, it's all about being inclusive, which is what I roll with. Is if you're inclusive, you create a much more comfortable environment. Now, that's not to say like, the racing buggies and the drag racing is terrible. No, 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 no. What I'm saying is that with the drifting, it's not about who's the fastest or who's got the better lap time. Drifting is about style and just having fun with it. That's mainly how I got into it, is because you have a lot more creative freedoms with drifting, whether it's like body styles, what motors you can run, or what drift angle you can run. With racing, it's all like stock car. Everyone runs the same thing, but it comes down to the driver, which I've done a couple of times, but not sort of my niche. And that's okay. That's why in the RC hobby, you have different outlets or different categories of RC cars. You've got rock crawlers, which are actually really awesome when it comes down to like the scale bits of it. bash cars, that's when you just go full throttle, ripping around skate parks or the outdoors. That's always fun. Let's see, there's the asphalt cars. Those things go crazy fast. And then you have your drift cars. So you have all sorts of categories that will fit any sort of person in there, and they'll be able to just easily fit right in. But the way that they've influenced my content is that if you look at my channel, I'll have, the goofy videos of me doing the skits, but I'll also have the serious videos. I was actually recently having a conversation with my buddy Alex about, this year I really want to make Mike Howl big again. And when I say big again, was that taking that massive break and just trying to figure out, what direction should Mike Howl go in. But the idea was to have me as a media outlet, being able to create this serious content for, companies to advertise for their RC cars. But I also have the audience that loves the Slash series. So there's that sort of influence on what content people enjoy and what varieties that I have. Because I can have a bunch of skit videos, but if you got older guys or something, or someone that doesn't want to have the goofy, silly stuff, but they would rather have the serious stuff, I have that on my channel for you to binge watch and enjoy, adding more of that inclusivity. So the RC drift community or scale drift series really influenced that seriousness in my content, of saying that, listen, I'm not only just doing this for fun, but I'm also showing the skills that I'm capable of that hopefully an RC company would hire me for, or that I can make videos for them on that. So I think when it comes to the influence aspect of certain communities, a little bit has changed. It's not seriously changed where I'm all serious in business and everything. I'll still have my funny content and then have the serious content for everyone to enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you're involved in communities and that other people are kind of feeding into things, but you're still able to obviously keep things as you want to keep them. So you talked about making Mike Howl big again, quote unquote. So part of that involves maintaining the Slash series, and part of it seems to involve kind of becoming in advertising for RC car companies or doing something cool like that. Have you worked with companies yet? I mean, you have a big following. Can you talk about your relationship with these companies and kind of how having a following has allowed you to get in contact with them in ways you maybe otherwise couldn't have?
Right. So my first sponsorship, I think, was by a company called Banggood. They were in all about RC cars, but they did have some RC cars on their website. And I think the first video that I ever made for them was a rock crawling video with one of their new trucks. Funny enough, that's where my truck Tiger came from. So I did a video about that. But after a while, personally wise, I not became bored. I essentially became lazy in the fact I'll get to it later. And then, later never came, which I regret now, knowing my maturity status back then. I should have been more on top of it. But because everything came at me so fast, I couldn't prioritize a lot of things. Not saying that I'm creating excuses, but I do take on the responsibility that I should have been more on top of things. So that sponsorship slowly ended. But then another company came along called Euro RC. They gave me very good trucks. And I'm talking about familiar brands from Traxxas to the Tamiyas. My truck Connor, which everyone loves that character as a rock crawling truck, came from Euro RC. So did a video about that, which is absolutely fantastic. Did a couple of Tamiya videos, and I even painted a Toyota AE86 body for the drift comps to advertise the Euro RC brand. So that brand was going well for a while, but then, slowly priorities came in order, and then I sort of just tanked off. I never had I wouldn't say training, but I didn't know how to properly manage a business relationship or how I could communicate well enough. I can communicate well enough on my own with improv, but when it came to business emails and all that sort of stuff, I didn't want to step over a boundary or over budget, but then I didn't want to ask for too little because I wouldn't know how to do with like a small quantity of items or in that sort of sense. So that relationship somewhat fell out, but it just came down to trying to figure out how do I incorporate the RC cars with certain sponsorships. One of them was the Ridge wallet. So I tried doing that, which seemed to go well for a while, but I think that was just a one-time thing, which is all right. But after that, it was just sort of hit and misses of like trying to figure out how can I incorporate the RC cars with this? Can I really do this as a sponsorship? So when I was trying to figure all this out, like I said, it was all coming at once and I kept overthinking it. Like, oh, is this going to go well? And will I meet their expectations? It came down to a priority thing, I would say, about that. But when I was referring to making Mike Howl big again, that's one of the things I wanted to tackle was having a better relationship with future sponsors and being on top of things. That's what I struggled as myself, was not being on top of things. I mean, I'm still somewhat trying to get there, but I could say I'm more of like carefree, like, oh yeah, it'll eventually come later and all that sort of stuff. I put a lot of things off, which has hurt me in like, oh, now I don't have time for this, or now I have to do this in a time crunch, which then overwhelmed me yet again. But that's what I want to change, because I realize if I don't prioritize things in the right order, I'm not going to be able to have these opportunities again. That's why when you reached out to me for the podcast thing, I was super excited about it. And then I had to go and mess it up by missing our first meeting because I wanted to prioritize it, but then, left my mind for a second because I was working on something else. But other than that, to make Mike Howl big again, it would be working on being on top of things, I would think, getting consistent with content and writing things down. Like I said, a lot of the stuff just comes off the top of my head, or freewheeling it, as my dad likes to say. So that's what I have to somewhat stop doing, or not stop doing, but in partnership, write stuff down. Because I'll remember something that day and then forget about it the next. So I think another thing is to write stuff down so that way I'm able to make a bigger story out of it, or try to make something grand out of it, instead of trying to be like, what was that one thing I was thinking about the other day. So definitely to write stuff down, I would say. I hope that I'm not like going off on like random tangents, because I'll listen to the first question and then end up just like going down this different path. Like, what's your favorite color? You know what? The weather outside is great.
Hey, that is the sign of a creative mind, going on tangents and, oh, this thing makes me think of this other thing, and that thing makes me think of this thing.
All over the place for me.
It's, yep, and it's that's just the way creative brains work. That is the truth of being an artist. So, I am curious. What is your golden rule? Like, for somebody who hasn't made a video yet, what would you tell them to help them kind of maximize their chances of success?
All right, viewers, this is where you really need to listen. You're listening? I'm pretty sure you are. But the one thing to do is be unique. I've said it before, but it's being unique and being yourself, because no one wants a copycat. No one wants, it depends on how well you do the copying. Regardless, it's being yourself. Because if you are yourself, people will tell. They can tell when you're being true to yourself. They can tell if you are being yourself. No one wants to be called out being like, yeah, that's not exactly him outside of the camera and everything like that. You sort of want to portray yourself as a character per se, and then take bits of that whenever you interact with, like, anyone off camera. Like I said, I always have this enthusiastic attitude whenever I'm on camera, but then off camera, I still have that enthusiasm, because when you have that enthusiasm and bright attitude, it rubs off on people. So my number one golden rule, always be true to yourself and always be unique. My second rule is to create relatability. Like I said before, the way people relate to my content is like, oh, reminds me of my dog, or, oh, that reminds me of my kid. When you become relatable, you're able to create a comfortable environment. So that way you have more discussions about like, oh, this reminds me of the time, et cetera, et cetera. So being relatable is always a top priority. And how you become relatable is finding your community in that. But also, you want to reach out to those who aren't in your community. So I can not dual action. I can do that with the RCs by relating to people in the RC community, or I relate that to people who have pets in like a pet community, or even acting in an acting community. Not that I've seen like people comment like, oh, you're a great actor and everything like that, but I'll mainly get stuff about like, oh, I love the RC cars, or this reminds me of like my dog. So definitely be relatable. The third one, which is, I wouldn't say risky, depends on how risky you go, is light controversy. This means you get the viewer thinking like, oh, I don't know about this, but it's intriguing to watch. You have to incorporate that where, now don't go like taking this out of proportion where you like do something like crazy and radical for saying like call people out, but it's playing with the viewer's mind and getting them thinking like, this is an interesting perspective. I like it. Or, I'm not too sure about this, but let me continue watching to see where he's going with this. So when you introduce like controversy, aka me talking to the RC cars, people, I think it's like a 50% of the audience is like concerned for my well-being, which I feel like is that light controversy. No one knows behind the camera that, I have a big family, I have a dog, I have like great friends. Everyone always assumes that I'm on my own. All my friends left me, so now I replace them with the RC cars. So that's where I get the viewers thinking I'm like this sort of person, which creates that like controversy. And those are my three main rules. So if you follow those, maybe besides the like controversy, if you follow the two with being true to yourself and creating relatable content, you're able to stand out in YouTube, depending on what you can do. And I believe I brought this point up before, is how can I make myself stand out in a community that does all of this stuff? You don't want to be creating the exact same content as the other guy. No, you want to stand out from that person. You want to be able to grow in that person more to say. Yeah, it sounds a little bit like competitiveness, but if you want to be competitive, it's being true to yourself in that sort of aspect. Especially with like, what's a good example? Like Minecraft YouTubers. What makes, I don't know many Minecraft YouTubers. Dan TDM, for example. What makes him stand out than, nope, I'm blanking on another Minecraft YouTuber's name. Regardless,
Sky does Minecraft.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Sky does Minecraft. He's well, I think he embraced the light controversy a little harder, you could say. Anyway, but not to stir up Minecraft drama. I wish him the best, truly. So that is all really good advice for growing a YouTube channel. I think staying true to yourself is always really important. I also think it is funny that a lot of people think that you're kind of this, when they watch your content, they, as you said, think that you... yeah. But I mean, dude, I've made plenty of weird videos myself, and I've gotten the same comments, and that's just kind of how it goes. You feel a desire to express yourself, and I think when you make something that is really creative and kind of unique that hasn't been seen before, there's a good chance that some people are going to either misunderstand it or think that this is like a guy who spends too much time in a dark room. And maybe that's true for me. Doesn't sound like it's true for you.
Yeah, because you want to be able to, sorry to cut you off, but you want to be able to get the viewers thinking on like a different perspective of life, or how is he like this? Which gets them to thinking. And actually, which I skipped my fourth rule, audience, not participation. Audience inclusivity, like, replying to comments or anything like that, making the viewers feel like, they have a real connection to you. Because most of the time it's one-sided. I know what my life is on the camera. Everyone else knows that, but I don't know them back. And I somewhat wanted to develop that sort of relationship, including them, making them feel more inclusive. I think that's my keyword, is being inclusive and like a welcoming environment. Because if you interact with an audience viewer, they're like, oh, they know that I'm here and they know that I support them, which is like, that's the biggest thing. Because when you see that audience reaction, it only tells you that you're doing a great job as a content creator and having that great audience interaction.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Well, hey, Mike, this has been fantastic. I wish we had more time, but we got started a little late with the technical difficulties. But I really appreciate you coming on here today and kind of just talking about your channel. Seriously, you know, the channel is Mike Howl, everybody, and it's really, really cool, interesting stuff. Like I've never seen a channel like it, and he is truly a creative man, and I appreciate that you are here and doing your thing, man. Seriously.
Thank you very much, Grant. And to snag on to that last point of being unique, that only goes to show viewers is that Grant saw the uniqueness in my content. And you've probably seen some RC content before, but what made me stand out was talking to the RC cars. So people, if you're listening, and I hope you are, if you have a niche in a community, figure out, and if you want to be a content creator, that is, figure out how to stand out. Of course, be yourself, but always try to be, you know, number one, and always try to be the best of yourself. And people will see that. They want to be able to see the growth. They want to see the success, because they'll be like, oh yeah, I knew when Mike was at this many followers and I've been with him through all this time. So you have to create that uniqueness for yourself. So I think that's what I have to go off on and end there, but also not try to like lose. And there I go off again on another tangent.
Well, there you have it, everybody. Mike Howl. He is the RC car king. He is undisputed. Nobody can defeat him and his vast armies. He's dope. Check him out. And yeah, thanks for being on here, man.
Yeah,
I really
course.
appreciate it. And with that, whoever you are, I will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.
Peace out, everyone.